much for speaking to me. This is a great series. What I wanted to know from both of you, starting with, because this is kind of an anime and it's done slightly different than I would assume American animated television. Can you talk about the differences within the voice and the inflections and tones that is taken?
Mm,
Oh wow, that's a what a great question.
yeah.
I as someone that has been doing anime dubbing for 20 years, the dub style has kind of changed, has kind of evolved over time, and slowly but surely, in my experience, has tried to aspire to a more naturalistic. Western idea of what we would see in Western animation, and so in some ways, I think I don't know how conscious we were of trying to do this, of course. I think it's just kind of baked into how we approach our work these days. But I think the seeing this anime that's based on Western Disney villain IP, but done in an anime, just a wonderful anime style. The idea was balance between those two ideas of acting, one that's more naturalistically grounded, and one that was a little more over the top. And what better way to do that than with Disney villains, who are always towing that line in the classic Disney
Mhm.
films? They're always fabulously over the top. They're always, in my opinion, the most interesting characters. That's not to say everyone else is boring, but I mean, without a villain, you've got no story. Just a bunch of lovely people going around enjoying their lives. Someone has to come in and mess it up. And they have to do so in exquisitely theatrical fashion. So it was a wonderful opportunity as voice actors to get to kind of toe that line, to be on the one hand wonderfully over the top and big and broad, but also find the sort of subtler human moments that make the characters more real, quote unquote. And so I think Twisted Wonderland gave us a great opportunity to do that, because what a perfect marriage of ideas.
Mm. Yeah, I echo everything Jay just said there. It's also very interesting that we're in a world filled with villains, and then as a performer myself, I'm playing a villain in a world full of villains. So we want to make this something that people can at least, root for certain characters for. And I think if you wind up going, too broad, you lose your audience. So we try to humanize these characters as much as possible within this Wonderland world where everything doesn't seemingly make sense on paper. Why would we abide by these very insane rules that the Queen of Hearts has kind of laid out for us? And I'm the type of performer, and especially our director was very encouraging towards, finding the humanity and grounding what would be a fantastical life for these characters in something that I think we as humans could empathize with or relate to in some way, shape, or form. So I think we did accomplish that, and I hope fans are excited to fall in love with these characters.
Wonderful. So then what's interesting also is Crowley's behind a mask. And so I was wondering, does that affect the voice in terms of, do you feel that you have to mask some of that, or do you have to speak out more? How does that change what he's trying to say and the personality behind it?
I, God, these are great. I love these questions. Okay, so I love the idea of a mask in performance, because I've found, and maybe Paul can back me up on this as an actor of some experience as well, but the more we can disguise ourselves, so to speak, the more liberated I feel to go places I wouldn't normally go in performance. The hardest jobs I've ever had are when the vocal print is just me, and just being normal. And I'm like, I don't know how to play me. I'm too busy playing other people. But so a mask on a character is really fun, because I feel that that gives me, the performer, permission to be anything I want to be behind that mask, and to put all my energy into, like, well, what do I want the mask to mean in this context? What do I want the mask to mean to this person that I happen to be speaking to? Which is something I think is kind of a way actors tend to think anyway, because, we are, putting on the cloak, as it were, of a different character, and finding out where we connect to them from the inside, to give that mask life. And so playing a character that's doing that kind of adds another layer that becomes a comment on performance itself. And I eat that kind of thing up. Maybe I'm too much in my own head, but I love that kind of stuff. But a mask gives me permission to go places I would never ever go in just Michael.
Mm.
Okay. I like that. And so for Paul, he comes in really fast and hot as Roseheart. Obviously, there's the temper, there's the anger, but how do you make sure that it doesn't become just one note throughout the performance?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and it's an easy trap to kind of play the one-notedness of a character who is a bit of a tyrant and has a very strong conviction about rules and regulations. And for me as an actor, it was kind of doing my research and mining to figure out why these things mean so much to Riddle. And the more I could sympathize with him and to make sense of the rules myself and why he would care so much, the more I think I can authentically play those moments of rage because otherwise it's just somebody screaming in a microphone. And as the series goes on, I think we get to see other sides of Riddle. And I think ultimately in this world of rules and regulations, the alternative is if those are not there for him, it's chaos. And chaos is a lot worse than having a blueprint of how we can all have fun and exist and do great things. So I think it'll be fun for people to see Riddle when things are going all according to plan, and then when things change, that's a whole other side of him. So it's yeah, just really doing my homework and trying to make him as human as possible, despite this fantastical and absurd world that we're playing in.
With Michael, with Crowley, what's interesting is that we get him kind of two note in terms of a personality. It's I really care about you, but please go over here and do this thing. You might die, but I care about you. So, can you talk about kind of leading? Which do you feel personality leads with the most, and which one do you like to hide the most?
I think both of those notes that you just mentioned are equally
Mhm.
true. I think Crowley behind the mask, as it were, if we can kind of keep going with that idea, which I really like, is that behind that mask is someone where those contradictions are kind of resolved. Like there's a whole universe in there, which is I also think reflected in the fact that he wears he's kind of an amalgam, at least visually, of all the classic Disney villains. So it's almost like there's a bunch of different personalities on constant rotation inside of him behind that mask, and whatever works in the context is what comes up. So he's very pragmatic in a sense of like, rather than, it's tempting to look at a character like that and think, okay, well, he has no control, like he's this and then like he's just moody, which can be very fun to play, but I think it's much more complicated with Crowley. There's much deeper things going on there. So he can look at a character and say like, oh, please be safe, but also don't die. And both are equally true. I don't know that he himself favors one or the other. It's I think the persona he is adopting in a given moment is, I won't say utterly, but by and large dependent on the circumstance and what will work, because he's got a plan, he's got a strategy, and half of that strategy is making sure he's keeping everyone else on their toes. So it's a conscious choice to appear like he's swinging between two extremes when I think it's all part of a Disney plan.
Ooh. I want to talk about both of the characters' relationship with each other.
Mm.
There seems to be a commonality, but we don't know what it is. Can you talk about kind of finding that common thread?
Ooh.
Interesting. I think on paper, as it were, my character is one of the house wardens at Night Raven College, and he's still very young. And I think there's at least some innate respect, I think, from Crowley. Not to speak on behalf of you, Jay, but I think Riddle is very, very skilled, and he wants the best for everybody. And I think that is a respectable quality in a house warden, and why he can be one of the youngest house wardens there, because he's very good, albeit maybe a bit too tyrannical in his approach, but it's all for the betterment of the college and for everybody who's attending Night Raven. So I think there's, respect in his skill and his dedication towards the Queen of Hearts rules that are in place in Night Raven College.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I mean, both are kind of authority figures in their respective contexts, so how could they fail to kind of see a little bit of themselves in each other? In fact, I think there are times when Crowley kind of tempers perhaps his more authoritarian strain, seeing kind of how Riddle is acting and being like, maybe that's maybe I don't go there. Maybe I let Riddle go there, and I'll be like, oh, I have no idea, you know. So it's based. I think the relationship is largely based on mutual respect and awareness of they're both in positions of authority, which come with its own baggage, but also there's some manipulation there. I mean, there's definitely some of like, I'll let Riddle, you know, take the hits for being over the top and a little too tyrannical, while I'm maybe the real tyrant back here, just letting everything fall into place. I think they're kind of cut from the same cloth, or at least partially. The difference is perhaps that Crowley's a little more subtle in the sense that you don't see him get emotional. And it's funny that the only times, I think, without giving anything away, the only times you see him kind of elevate a little bit to getting a little more lost in his emotions are scenes that directly involve Riddle.
Mm.
So that'll be interesting to see how fans pick up on that, which I'm sure they will.
Okay, I like that. But also going a little bit with Riddle, I was wondering, we do know he comes from the Queen of Hearts, that whole descendant thing of learning from her, or maybe being scared of her. But who do you feel that he would be without her in general, or her lessons, or even her brain?
I think it would be, you know, without giving too much away about Riddle's character and what we're going to learn about him, I think the Queen of Hearts, despite the absurdity of some of these rules, it gives Riddle comfort because the alternative is much more scary for him to imagine. So, she is the compass for him to exist within this world and to excel. And I think we will learn more about why he respects and idolizes these qualities about the Queen of Hearts and why it can lead him to such rage when those rules are broken. I don't want to spoil it, but it's definitely something we explore in the series.
So what I was wondering also, with it being a dub, is the goal to kind of closely match the expressions of what was originally recorded, or is it more of going by what is on the animation page and the style of how it looks and how it feels to you when it comes to finding that voice and that character?
Mm.
It's I think about striking a balance between those two things. If you go too far in either direction, I think it tends to lead you astray. So one is like, yes, we always preview the Japanese and study the performances of the seiyuu, which are always just so, it's such a privilege to get to do that, right? I wish I had that kind of guidance in every job. But at the same time, you have to find your way into it. I mean, I'm a big believer as a performer that the biggest compliment you can pay to a fellow actor with whom you share a role is to find your own way into it through them, rather than just imitating them. I think imitation just becomes kind of hollow and bland, and it makes everyone ask, "Well, why are we watching this? We already have that version." And so it's also you know, we want to find and elevate the material the same way the seiyuu do. We want to prove as best we can that it has a home in any language, in any cultural context, just about. And that's part of the fun of being able to kind of find your way into it and strike that balance. So it's about, really, for me, balancing those two extremes, which are both very handy to have in your hip pocket, but that both always have to be in play.
They both have fantastic styles in terms of fashion. What do you think that says about their character?
I think all these characters have a wonderful sense of fashion, and I adore it, and I am so excited to start seeing cosplays, hopefully, of these characters. I mean, Riddle is the embodiment of everything elegant and glorious about the Queen of Hearts and that type of world, and he is you know, just like the Queen of Hearts and the strictness and the very form-fittedness. He looks a little bit like a little tyrant in his uniform. So, and it has little trinkets and elements that pay homage or respect to the Queen of Hearts, and I love his outfit. I really do. I hope I can pull off a cosplay. I'll have to try it, but I'm a little too scared.
Oh my God, you must. You must.
I have
You'd
to.
be great. You'd be great.
Dye my hair red. I'll get the heart-shaped front of the hair.
Yeah.
It'll look
Oh my
great.
God. Yeah. Yeah, I love, not to put too fine a point on it, but I love the sort of the idea that, you know, Riddle is, you know, wears his heart on his sleeve, for all his control and all his, containment and whatever. He's still very much, I think, a creature that's enthralled to his own emotional state, which I think Paul captures so beautifully. Crowley is a mystery, and I mean, he has to be, and he luxuriates in being a mystery. The common thread among all the little trinkets and design elements that harken back to all the classic villains are the idea of the crow, and in sort of classic literature, the crow is something of a psychopomp, a messenger between worlds. So I think, and this is just all my own weird actor brain finding my own ways into characters that may have nothing to do with the original creator's intent, but I see Crowley as something of a messenger between worlds, and that is kind of taken up by the sort of crow motif. So we'll see if I'm right.
Okay. If given the opportunity to mentor one character from the Disney universe, who would it be?
To mentor them from the Disney universe.
One character.
Gosh.
Oh,
You might have to go first here,
choices.
Jay. I think there's
Can I mentor all of them? Is that cheating? Can I just have a workshop where I'm mentoring all of them? I think I would love to. There's a few I can think I would love to be mentored by. I would love to be mentored by Cruella de Vil, just for fashion. But not towards her reputation with animals, but the fashion. She's so fabulous. I would mentor. Oh, who would I mentor? I know. I would mentor, and maybe I'm just saying this because I'm wearing my mustache the way I am today, but I would mentor a young Jafar to be like, look, kid, you're going to make mistakes. Let me help you try to avoid those.
I love that answer. My gosh, I'm gonna cheat here a little bit, I guess, because I don't know if you said villains or if anyone in the Disney universe, but I'm gonna cheat here and pick Pinocchio because he wants to be an actor. So I feel like I have the skill set to directly impact his life.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for speaking to me, and thank you for this. This was a great series.
Our
My
pleasure.
pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.